So good day everyone. So today we will tackle an interesting topic which is the leveling of gender and sexuality. But before we're going to start our discussion, I wanted to give you a self-reflect question which is the um what age or when did you first realize that you were a girl or a boy? So okay. So gender and sex are important aspects of human life. It tells a person to behave in the society's standard of what is appropriateness, from how we look and act and execute the laws and values of the society. So, by this, the society will tell us that only the women are allowed to wear makeups, crop tops, and etc. Because if we see a man wearing, then it will be unpleasing and it is not the standard of the society for what is appropriateness. So, in this discussion, at the end of this discussion, we all be expected to learn the different views and we'll be able to differentiate the sex and gender.
What is sex? Let's talk about sex. The good, the bad, and the complicated. Sex is often referred to as the act of reproduction, scientifically copulation. In zoology, copulation is animal sexual behavior in which a male introduces sperm into the female's body. It is nonetheless important notion of how popular culture sees sex. Popular culture is the set of practices, beliefs, and objects that embody the most broadly shared meanings of a social system. Into popular culture, sex is something done for pleasure, and perhaps in a more fervent sense, it is what drives people to do certain things. So, fervent sense is a psychoanalytic theory that composed of three factors: the id, the superego, and ego. It is primitive and instinctual part of the mind that contains a sexual and aggressive drives and hidden memories. The superego operates as a moral conscience, and the ego is the realistic part that mediates between the desires of the id and the superego. This is often equated with the related to gender. Gender as a topic for discussion is likewise disregarded. So this topic defines sex through its biological and not cultural definition. Sex in biological sense is a category for living beings especially related to reproductive function. For most living creatures, there are two sexes, the male and the female. The female sex is determined by the following characteristics. It produces egg cells, which are fertilized by another sex and bears the offspring. The male sex, on the other hand, produces sperm cells to fertilize egg cells. Chromosomes determine one sex. A chromosome is a long DNA molecule with part, or all of the genetic material of an organism. In most chromosomes, the very long thin DNA fibers are coated with packaging proteins. In eukaryotic cells, the most important of these proteins are the histones. So XX equates to female, and the XY equates to male. These pairs of the chromosomes are distinct because the difference in their characteristics are necessary for reproduction. Copulation, or the union of the sexes, The XX and XY, or the male and female, produces offspring. Or the organs used for reproduction, and secondary sex characteristics are largely influenced by one's X and Y chromosomes. These chromosomes determine whether someone's body will express itself as a female or a male. For example, in girls, um, her hips will broaden and the breast will develop, and for the boys, the muscles develop and the shoulder broadens and the size of the penis will increase.
To hormones. So hormones also helps in defining one's sexuality. So according to this, in the early development of the early stage of development, exposure to high testosterone would lead to a male typical orientation, whereas exposure to low estrogen would lead to a female typical orientation. Genitalia, the hormones, the chromosomes are all biological attributes that helps define one's sexuality. Pero in performing one's sexuality may differ one's from one person according to his or her culture. Kay since wala man ta nagalakaw sa dalan, we are not walking down the road with a signage of XX and XY in our head to be identified as a male or female, then the society will perceive our sexuality through its through his or her culture. Like example, kanang the models. So they are viewed by the society of what is being attractive. Like taas, mubo, ay dili mubo. So taas, gwapo, gwapa, taas ilong, puti, dako, dakuguan na ba? So kanang mo naghihire sila kay kanang they are viewed man by the society to what is kanang the standard of attractive. Dayon, so ang mga models, like kung ang mga models kay kung their poses are showing kanang dominance power, then it is associated to being masculinity, female, male. Then if the models poses are kanang showing pag so genuine, so care, then ga show og kanang pag care sa ilang mga parents, sa ilang spouses, sa ilang children, sa ilang tana, then it shows femininity. So that is where the question, what is gender, comes in.
What is gender? Gender is socially learned behavior usually associated with one sex. It is short for gender between the sexes, on how the male and female relate to one another. Gender is a behavior that is learned and adapted from society that is related to one sex. Gender is also based on how people see themselves, on their tendency to act along either the masculine and feminine line. It is based on how people present themselves, the way they talk, act, and how they connect themselves to others. Gender is a social construct that determines one's roles, expected values, behavior, and interaction in the relationship involving men and women. It affects what access is available for men and women to decision making, knowledge, and resources. When we say social construct, it is an idea that has been created and accepted by the people in society. Sex and gender are two different things, but one's gender is usually associated with one's sex. The difference between sex and gender. Sex is all about physiological, related to reproduction, congenital, and it is unchanging, while gender is all about social, cultural, learned behavior, and it changes over time. Due to advances in science and other societal trends, one can now legally and physically change his or her gender. Everyone is allowed and has freedom to change. If we say legally means they can change their names and gender legally if they wanted to. And physically is where they can transition from male to female and female to male by doing some procedures and undergoes surgeries. Does sex correspond to gender? Many scientists, psychologists, and sociologists believe that sex does not determine one's gender. Femininity, or the behavior that one associates with females, may not tied to woman's sex. Similarly to masculinity, where it is not tied to one's gonads. The whole idea of being a woman, therefore, is based on gender and society's belief in how a woman should act, instead of biological functions that are inescapable. The notion that one's biology predetermines the roles one must have in life should not be case at all. In one's perspective about female is how society perceive and it is associated one's culture. Like if the society tells us that the woman should act like this, then that is how they defined woman. Doing household chores is said to be woman's job, yet there are some men who do the cooking and cleaning at home. Aggressive sports are said to be more for men, but every men's sports team there is a counterpart for women. We tend to say and think that household chores is only done for women, but there are some men are willing to do household chores. In sports, men has more opportunity than women.
Salamat
Salamat tungkay!